Now our investigation of Heaven Watkins' death uncovers new issues which make protecting children even more difficult. 13 News Now investigative reporter Laura Geller has details.
I don't want this to happen to anybody else. People need to know. People need to know Heaven's story.
Heaven's story includes a history with Child Protective Services in Minnesota. Court documents detail abuse and neglect there. In fact, records show social workers were so concerned they removed the little girl from her mother's care for almost a year and a half. Shortly after LaToya Smith got custody again, the family moved to Norfolk. Then, in February, Virginia CPS got involved. Caseworkers investigated a complaint when Heaven's hand was so badly burned she was put in the hospital for 6 days. CPS decided this time it wasn't enough to remove Heaven from her mother's home.
When making that decision, did Virginia caseworkers know what happened in Minnesota? We don't know, but here's what we do know. Virginia CPS workers are not required to get in touch with agencies in other localities.
We've uncovered this manual put out by the State Department of Social Services. It reads, "Where possible, abuse history from other county or state jurisdictions should be checked."
It sounds very simple to say, yes, you should follow up on every single case. But the reality, when you have a family that may not even be willing to tell you their last name, let alone their last address, is that it's much more complicated than just saying, yes, you should check on where they were before.
We've also found out even if the state were to require Virginia caseworkers contact other state CPS systems, there's no formal process to do it. Virginia has its own central database. It contains names of people identified as abusers or neglectors in the Commonwealth, but there's no nationwide link to other states.
Is a national central registry something that you think would keep kids safer?
We really need that central registry to be in place that would allow them a central point to be able to check that information, have access to that information, and be able to truly follow up on that to ensure we're protecting our children and families.
But creating that registry is not simple.
The definitions of abuse and neglect from state to state are not consistent from state to state. So how Virginia defines who goes into a central registry and who does not is not necessarily the same as other states.
Back in Minnesota, Heaven's aunt hopes changes to the child protection system would allow it to protect other kids in the future.
If you have a case, that case should follow you. It shouldn't go away because you move to a different state.
Do you think that could have saved Heaven?
Yes.
We've shown you a lot of documents in this case. There's a lot of information. If you want to see it for yourselves, we've put it all online. Just look for Heaven's story in the 13 News Now Investigate section of our website. Laura Geller, 13 News Now.